Let's dive into Georgia's receiver room just a little bit. The talk has been around the tight ends. There's been a lot of talk about the running backs, and is Milton going to be the number one? Is it going to be McIntosh? The receivers, in my opinion, haven't gotten as much of the load of the conversation as those other position groups have. So I wanted to make a little video about them, about A.D. Mitchell, Ladd McConkey, what they have from top to bottom, what they're missing from last year, how I think they're going to do, how they're really going to do. Everything about the wide receivers. Ryan Curley from Dog Post here, bringing you all the details about Georgia's wide receiver room and more. College football, of course. Make sure you're checking out DAWGSTRUCTION, our insider book. You can be part of it right there. Links are down below for that. The magazine, we're running out of magazines, so make sure you click down below for those links. The preview magazine, we're running out. All right, Georgia's wide receiver. We talked to Adonai Mitchell, A.D. Mitchell last night. He was first time he ever was a part of a press conference from Georgia football. If you're not familiar with the rule that they have, freshmen are not allowed to talk to the media during press conference situations, or at least in official capacity. That's how we got Brock Bowers for the first time last week. This week we got A.D. Mitchell for the first time. He had a lot to say. He was in a very good mood. He praised Dominic Blaylock's perseverance. He talked a little bit. I asked him about him and Stetson's relationship. He and Stetson are what I think are at least have a solid friendship. You can see from the sidelines that A.D. Mitchell and Stetson Bennett have some chemistry. I can see it from the press box. I can see it when I'm on the field after the game. They're definitely friends. There's definitely some chemistry there, especially since they connected on that 40-yard deep ball in the national championship to give them the lead over Alabama in the fourth quarter. We know that A.D. Mitchell's a big part of that. And we know Ladd McConkey was a big part of last year. 31 catches for him, 447 yards. He obviously had the 5 touchdowns. He had that big deep ball right there against Auburn. The perfect timing there on the screen. You don't get that every day. I'm still working on this. And so Ladd McConkey flashed some speed, flashed some route running, flashed some grit. Dominic Blaylock, I think, is going to be really good. I think it's important that he returns. So Kearis Jackson, senior leadership, banged up last year. He may have got banged up in their scrimmage a few days ago, but nothing serious, just some ankle stuff. He is their leader, right? He is their number one guy in terms of experience. Had a big year in 2020. When there was a quarterback carousel. You guys know the story about all that. Had a big year. So Kearis Jackson, Ladd McConkey, and A.D. Mitchell, those are kind of their ones, right? That's their first team. Behind them, you lose Arian Smith for at least a lot of the season, or a bulk of it. Has another lower leg injury. He's really racked those up. Unfortunate that happens for Arian Smith, but you got to move on. He hasn't really been on the field for Georgia that much. He does provide a deep threat and provide maybe a change in coverage against defenses. So, yes, it is a loss, not astronomical. Jermaine Burton and George Pickens from last year are the two that are gone. For Jermaine, obviously, he was one of your most talented guys. He produced almost 500 yards and 5 touchdowns last year. Obviously, had a big touchdown in the Orange Bowl. Had some big touchdowns earlier in the season. He's gone. He's at Alabama now. How do they replace his production? Well, you got a couple freshmen coming in Denylon Morissette and Dylan Bell. There's been a lot of praise about Dylan Bell, the true freshman. He's done really well. It kind of similar praise to what A.D. Mitchell got during the offseason last year as a freshman. So Dylan Bell is the guy you're going to see on the field, all right? Dylan Bell is someone you're definitely going to see on this football field. You're going to see Denylon Morissette. And you're going to see the tight ends mixed into it. But from a receiver standpoint, Marcus Rosemy-Jackson's a guy that's still in there getting reps. He's been working with what are the twos. They're going to rotate all these guys. But we're just evaluating this wide receiver room right now. At the top, I think they're perfectly fine at the top. I think A.D. Mitchell is a good wide receiver one in college football. I think he's only going to get better. They are treating him as their number one receiver. We're not looking at tight ends. They're treating him as their number one receiver. That's been my observation when I go to these practices, when I'm in these press conferences. To me, A.D. Mitchell is the number one receiver. Ladd McConkey and Kearis Jackson have been working with him. Behind him, it was Arian Smith, Marcus Rosemy-Jackson, Dominic Blaylock. You've seen Dylan Bell mixed in. You've seen Denial and Morissette get some time, but those guys, some of them are hurt now. Rosemy-Jacksaint's going to be on the field a lot, in my opinion, just because of some injuries, because of some people leaving. He's a reliable guy if he's on the field and not hurt. So to me, this is still a pretty solid wide receiver room. I don't think it's fantastic, but I do think it's deep. They have no shortage of weapons, in my opinion. They have receivers that can really do it all. It does hurt that Arian Smith is gone, but they still have a pretty good wide receiver room, all right? Because to me, you look at it this way. What'd you lose? You lost Pickens, who really didn't play that much last year. Obviously, he's the best wide receiver they've had in a while. Don't get me wrong on that. He does suck to lose him. And you lose Burton, who is also really, really good. Those are the subtractions. To me, Dominic Blaylock's an addition because you really haven't seen him play. All right, he's barely played the last 2 years. So to me, Dominic Blaylock's an addition. Dylan Bell's an addition. Denial and Morissette's an addition. So maybe losing Pickens and Burton, maybe that doesn't even out. But to me, the best of Dominic Blaylock was better than the best of Jermaine Burton. If that's a hot take, I just said it. It's my take. Full strength Dominic Blaylock is better than full strength Jermaine Burton, in my opinion. And so if that's the case, then maybe they got slightly better because Pickens didn't really play last year, and then you add some other guys. But to me, the room is deep enough. It's not the most talented wide receiver room in college football. No, it's probably not even in the top 5. But it's talented enough and it's deep enough to where Stetson Bennett has the weapons when you supplement that with the tight ends and the running backs. Now, I know the running backs are wearing thin. There's not a lot of concerns to me about this Georgia offense. To me, the wide receivers are not a concern. That's your wide receiver room for Georgia football this year. Make sure you're following all our videos. Make sure you're clicking down below for links to DAWGSTRUCTION, all of our social sites. Look up Dog Post, guys.